This research is about the intersections of technology and the privatization of the university. Specifically, I am using the case of technology to illustrate the increasing influence of neoliberal ideologies in a higher education setting. To frame my analysis, I center my work on the question of how the privatization of the university impacts students' notions of the self and relationships. To further ground this, I'm asking how the increase of technology in the university is impacting students' educational goals. Neoliberalism, for those who don't know, is a set of ideologies centered around a few tenets, like individual rights, individual responsibilities, free markets as the best way to organize society, free trade, and so on. This ideology became globally dominant around the 70s and 80s. And when I'm talking about technology in this research, I'm specifically referencing digital and computer technologies. I did my research at Boise State University, and to frame the importance and relevance of my project, I'll read a few excerpts from the official Boise State magazine from fall of 2013, specifically referencing the cover story, Flipping the Classroom. To start off, in the president's official address in the magazine, he says, quote, "Technology, scientific discovery, demographics, the environment, politics, and policy, they are all constantly shifting and creating new opportunities for those up to the challenge. In fact, many of these jobs our students are preparing for don't yet exist. Although many of the same skills valuable for academic success are exactly the abilities employers are looking for in job applicants, problem solving, critical thinking, adaptability, and communication skills, all of which one study shows are more important than an undergraduate's major when finding a job." He goes on to say, "Our story on Flipping the Classroom shows how the traditional university lecture is being turned on its head to ensure that students come to class prepared to engage with the instructor and the material." So we can see in this address, he's already framing the purpose of the university being to find a job, to build the necessary skills, specifically referencing technology in the classroom as a way to obtain these skills. In the cover story, Flipping the Classroom, I'm going to read a few excerpts just to help sort of frame how the university is changing up the way that it's using technology in its classrooms. "At the heart of changes to the traditional classroom model is an effort to use space-time in a way that best promotes student learning. Students used to come to campus because this is the place where experts, library, and other resources are located. But with computers, digital notepads, and smartphones, students can access information on the internet from anywhere at any time." Another excerpt, "An effective flip requires careful preparation. Recording lectures takes effort, time, and a certain amount of technical skill on the part of the faculty member. Out-of-class and in-class elements need to be carefully integrated for students to understand the model and be motivated to prepare for class." The piece ends by saying, "In the end, a flipped classroom encourages students to be responsible for their own learning and to make it a lifelong habit." So we can see a sort of shift in who is responsible for getting the education being kind of turned on its head to the students' responsibility for their own education, for demanding what they want from the university, and it's the instructor's responsibility to record lectures and put in the time, effort necessary to prepare for what students are demanding. And now I'll provide a brief outline of my findings, followed by participants' responses and literature to illustrate these findings. In contemporary universities, two ideas have become so married to one another that they are no longer questioned in the university. First, technology is always viewed as inherently progressive and beneficial to both individuals and society as a whole. We are better off if we have the latest iPhone, the latest software to do all of these things, to multitask and be more efficient in our everyday life. And secondly, the university can become more profitable by privatizing itself in various ways. The result is that the rhetoric of technology is masking the realities of privatization. However, tensions arise as students' experiences are not living up to their expectations. The failures of technology to live up to their expectations end up blamed on humans, who students believe should be responsible for educating them on technology use. In the process of using professors as scapegoats, their authority, which is the previously reigning authority of scientific knowledge and scientific authority, is undermined and replaced with the authority of market logic. Catalyzing this usurpation is the increasing role of technology combined with the embodiment of new logics through entrepreneurship. Students, whose role in the university is that of a consumer, consuming their education, begin to demand a new form of training. The broad acceptance of privatization alters students' goals for their education, and these consumers begin to demand a trade school-style education to make them more marketable as they seek employment. A potentially unintended, though insidious, consequence of this is that the power of technology knowledge, which is the power of private entities that own the technologies in the university, is asserted over the knowledge and authority of the professors. In short, technology enables the university to further privatize itself by changing the dominant modes of knowledge, power, and agency. This simultaneously changes what students want from a university education. As students are trained to further demand a tech trade school to become competitive in the job market, they demand that the university should facilitate closer connections between students and businesses. So now I'm going to read a few quotes followed by excerpts from the interviews that I conducted. The quotes are all by the theorists that I drew the most from, Ilana Gershen's piece called Neoliberal Agency. To start, quote, "Spreading neoliberalism entails convincing others that everyone should enact a corporate form of agency, produced by consciously using a means and calculus that balances alliances, responsibility, and risk." So I see this most prevalently in an excerpt from an interview that I conducted where I asked, how should Boise State make itself more attractive to prospective students? And the response from this student was, quote, many other things are not in BSU's control, and other things are. How many industries do you have in Boise? Then the question comes, is the number of graduates come out with, do they match with their businesses' requirements? That is the most important question. If they can answer this definitely, that will help the most. Because if you have 10 engineering graduates and you have 100 jobs, it is a problem. But if you have 10 engineering graduates and you have 50 other graduates, non-engineering graduates, then you still have 100 jobs in engineering. It's not useful. All those other 50 people will not get a job, and these 10 will get a job. When you only get a job because there are 100 jobs, the company will not last long enough to encourage people to come to Boise from outside. So we see a few things happening in this excerpt. First of all, interactions with other students, with the entity of the university, with professors, are measured in a very specific calculus. And we can see that it's even like an equation. The output of graduates from the university not only has to match the number of jobs available in the community, but it needs to match the specific type of job. So Boise State needs to encourage people to attend specific programs to match the output of jobs, the output of graduates to the number of jobs in the community. And they, after graduation, Boise State can't really do anything for students if they don't have these specific qualifications. And the companies are our only hope for getting more students to come to Boise. A second quote from Ilana Gershen, quote, "A neoliberal perspective of agency presumes that people own their skills and trades, that they are a collection of assets that must be continually invested in, nurtured, managed, and developed. One is always faced with oneself as a project that must be consciously steered through various possible alliances and obstacles. This is a self that is produced through an engagement with a market, that is, neoliberal markets require participants to be reflective managers of their abilities and alliances." where I see this in my interviews when asked whether he would rather master all of the technology in his classes require or have his classes require less technology for the class. One respondent said, quote, "The classes can have more technology, but I don't need to master everything. I just need to know how to use it." So we can see how students are demanding a tech trade school to become more marketable, to become more reflexive managers of their skills and abilities. They don't need to know how to use they just need to know how to use the technology that the companies are selling to Boise State in specific programs, and they don't need to have an actual mastery. They don't need to know how to do the calculations that these machines are doing for them. They don't need to know why they're doing these calculations. They just need to know what numbers to put in what program and what to do with those numbers. So there's no real critical thinking involved as Boise State evolves into more of a tech trade school. Third quote from Ilana Gershon: "What are relationships under neoliberalism? They are alliances that should be based on market rationality. The worker provides a skill set that can be enhanced according to the employer's requirements. Part of what is being offered is the worker's reflexive ability to be an improvable subject." So in our interviews, I asked who benefits most from the increased use of technology in the university between students, faculty, and the university as a whole. And every single respondent said that students benefit the most. And another interesting thing that happened in these interviews is that many people without prompt offered that faculty and often are hurt by this increased role of technology. They have more to do, they are more responsible, they're more accountable in a lot of ways. But it's something that they're demanding because they want to go to school to acquire these skills to manage themselves and market themselves in this job market after graduation. So what this is doing is effectively turning professors into customer service agents of the university. And I'll end with one more quote from Ilana Gershon: "When one becomes a bundle of ill-defined but highly flexible skills, one becomes a fragmented self of usable traits." So overall, this project shows how demanding a tech trade school is sort of changing the way that we view ourselves and the way that we view our relationships into some kind of a market in which we are only thought of by ourselves and by each other in our relationships as the skills that we have, rather than the beings that we are and the beings that we can be. Thank you.